Now we're on record. Let's see. Well, life keeps unfolding.
So I was reading that, I was listening to Das Boot actually, and chapter 6, subchapter 10, he talks about experience. He said that, let's see here, if you say there's experience without an experiencer, you're still in illusion. And I guess the whole question about experience and experiencer, you know, like, basically, I would think that, you know, since there is absolutely nothing to begin with, that everything, it's just, you know, in other words, nothing is actually happening. Everything is only one. There can be no experience, no experiencer. And yet, you know, like in terms of the appearance, it seems to be like there is experiencing happening. You know, the foremost self experiencing itself, moving through the apparent reality, but it's not real. So, you know, like at one level, there is the experiencing taking place, but that's simply an appearance. It's like the dream happening. It's not true. And that's, at the ultimate level, there's no experience, no experiencer, no witness, no witnesser. So, is that correct? Or that's one of the questions I had.
You know, again, that's like measuring yourself in body form. You'd have to have a body in order to have an experience. And when you're just
Right.
that aware presence that's experiencing, but it's not really experiencing because there's no memory. There's no, you know, how is this relating to anything else? It's just some scene that's coming through. So it's not like you're preparing to behave or act in some certain way. It has to be, again, because of the body identity there appears to be experiencing. If you were to look at the space in front of you and all the people moving around, the space is not actually experiencing, and yet these things are occurring, but nothing's actually happening.
Yeah.
And the no experiencer is because, again, if you were space with eyes, basically they're seeing, but there's no concept that someone's in it or that there are some other things going on. And again, measuring yourself in body form is, instead of just being that aware presence, that presence, you know, all this is appearing on my spontaneous presence. Instead of being that, then there's a body knowledge kind of story that's going along with it, how I am interacting and this and that. But if you, like Ramakant Maharaj says all the time, if at all you want to compare yourself like sky or space, and space with eyes, basically. There's no experience, no experiencer, because it's just clean. There's pure awareness, aware, but aware of nothing really, just aware.
I mean, there is an awareness of, you know, the dream, you know, like the objects, the people, the things in a dream, but basically it's the understanding or the sort of the recognition that it's just simply not true, or, you know, it's simply a dream. Is that correct? Or?
Well, again, but then the concept of being held on to that it's a dream, and
Yeah.
prior to being this or after leaving the body, there's no dream. Dream is just a concept to, again, like you take one concept, move one thorn, and throw away the other thorn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Without body. Always, if you're speaking as space, then there's no kind of, I had this experience. I couldn't have experienced because I'm formless. There's nothing there. I'm an aware presence that's believing myself to be a body for a time, and seemingly in this body. And also it's the awareness, this aware presence, this aliveness that I am without anything else. Like it is talking just I, just I. And you can be walking down the street and looking out and just seeing without actually identifying anything or labeling anything or putting yourself in the scene. It's just this seeing, this expansiveness, but without any kind of body knowledge. That's that storyline that keeps going through, interpreting.
Right. Yeah.
Like we said before, here's John, here's the computer. Here's John, here's the water. Here's John, here's this. Instead of that, it's just this alive awareness, this presence. All of this is appearing on spontaneous presence. But when you know yourself in a real sense, and you just keep going into that. And I just posted something, or maybe I read it today, I may not have posted it, about always in the moment, it's like, it's not this. I don't need, don't want, it's not this, it's not this. And knowing, like Maharaj says, the entire world appears on your spontaneous presence. So all of it is illusion because you're formless. So all of this form that's appearing is as if it is a dream. It's not a dream, but it is as if it's a dream because you are the aware presence that this is appearing in. Everything is appearing on your spontaneous presence. And there's no witnessing it because, like Nisargadatta Maharaj says, when the sun is rising, you're not really witnesses the sun, right? It's just the sun is there. So there's no like witnessing of this. It's just awareness.
Yeah, awareness. Yeah.
Then the presence is you. This presence is, you dive into that. And as you're diving into that aware presence invites the attention of the invisible listener that then looks and pulls you in or pulls you out of this constant, like Maharaj says, the circle of body knowledge. Nisargadatta Maharaj says, remain in the I am. And that I am, that presence, that feeling of presence, that's all there is. There's just, okay, presence. Everything is appearing on the spontaneous presence. The presence is formless. There's no, it's not, there's nothing. Everything that's in between is that something that's appearing in the nothing. You have the nothing, something is appearing, and then it goes back to nothing. But nothing was ever there. Just like we talked about the dream, when if the mouse was able to sit there and feel the dreamer, or that there's something, have that kind of focus on, I'm not a mouse and I'm feeling this feeling, I know I exist, there's something there, and then it would be the dreamer that you are, not the mouse character, that would start to pull and look through the concept of the mouse and say, oh, I'm not a mouse. But it's not the mouse saying I'm not a mouse. It's the dreamer seeing through the concept of being a mouse in a mouse world, because the attention is invited, looking through, oh, I'm not a mouse, I'm something more, just in that moment. And inviting the attention of the invisible listener through mantra, through remaining with yourself when different things appear to be appearing and your attention is drawn out, remain inward. And eventually, you'll start to see that the entire world is projected on your spontaneous presence. All of this form world is appearing on that presence that you are, that is formless. And you know that presence can't be divided, can't be split. Once you know that presence and you're remaining there, there's nothing else. It does its own self. Like Ramakat Maharaj says, you just absorb. And then the fun starts, because the invisible listener that you are starts to see, just like in the dream, that the dreamer sees, I'm not a mouse, but I'm seeing through this mouse form. That you are starts to perceive that I am not this body, that I can't be this. This presence, that I am the knower of this presence. This presence is the fragrance of my own self. And I am not body, I was not body, I'm not going to remain the body. And your job, so to speak, as much as you can do, is done. You know yourself in a real sense, and that's it. It keeps pulling you in, pulling you in, pulling you in. Even pulling you in is kind of not the correct, because you're all this, but you start to see through these concepts. And the mantra allows slowly, silently, and permanently all these little hooks that are out there in this form world that you're believing yourself a form in. And then if you're not body, then no question about the body can relate to you. It's meaningless. Everything that's in form is absolutely meaningless to you, the presence. And yet, here you are in this form. So do your job, do your duties, and go throughout your life and do what's right in front of you. But no worries, you're formless. It's as Ramakant Maharaj says, you're acting in a drama. Do your role well. While you're playing the character, do your role well. Just like we talked about in the mouse dream. If the mouse doesn't run away from the cat, then the dream's over. You know, you no longer believe you're a mouse because your little mouse body ain't there anymore.
Yeah. And
But go ahead.
And the mouse could do some psychotherapy to make his dream better.
Yeah, there you go. And he could sit on a mouse therapy couch and talk about how horrible it is to be a mouse, but he's not a mouse. And once he starts to perceive that I'm not a mouse, the dreamer that's dreaming, the attention is drawn and seeing through this mouse form, I am not this mouse. And that's the awakening of this dreamer seeing through the mouse form in the mouse conceptual world that's being built. But I'm not a mouse. It's not the mouse saying he's not a mouse.
No. It's a recognition.
Exactly. It's a recognition by the dreamer that I am not a mouse. And the same thing here, inviting the attention of the invisible listener, consistently, like Maharaj says, hammering, hammering, hammering. You're Brahman. You are Brahman. You are Brahman. You're not this body. You were not body. You are not body. You're not going to remain the body. You never were a body. There was a belief in this body for a time. You hooked onto this form and said, this is me, and this is what I'm doing. But it's not true. You're formless. You're the formless presence. That's it. So anything in form can't be you or yours.
I listened to a recording that I did from Vasishtha's Yoga, and it's divided into sections, and it's the section on liberation. It's the last section of the book, and you know, I kind of like related to what Keith had brought up about the breathing with the mantra, and you know, I never did really. You know, he speaks about the fact that there are two types of yoga. One is self-knowledge and the other is pranayama. And pranayama I never did really focus on. I didn't even really care about, actually, but I just listened to it because it was next on the list to be listened to. And it was on Basunda. Basunda is a crow in a tree that lives through various yugas or cycles, you know, the world dissolutions, and, you know, it's a whole conversation about how does he do this and so forth. How did he manage to just live so long? And he spoke about that, you know, in the first part of the lecture. I mean, you know, the recording is very technical, but it got to be really interesting, and just really the whole thing about the breathing was really helpful, I found, at least with the mantra. You know, and it's not sort of anything exaggerated or anything sort of very deliberate. It's just simply being more aware, you know, breathing, you know, with the inhaling and exhaling, and then maybe sometimes retention of breath. But it really, I really kind of like brought that mantra to a you know, it just kind of like erased everything, just kind of like there was just nothing, you know. So it was very interesting just to see that. But I remember, you know, like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, Keith, that you had mentioned that about should one breathe with the mantra. And anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out.
Well, no, Ramakant did say to do it with the breath.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, he told me that when I got the mantra. And But I was just, my question last week was like, is there any rule as far as percentage? And
Yeah.
I guess it just kind of doesn't matter. The percentage wise, anyway. That's sort of what I gathered.
Yeah, the main thing is not to acquire any additional body knowledge of any
Yeah.
kind. I mean, it's good, but just like, and again, the whole dissolution of the universe is the same as how it starts. In Das Boot, it talks about the primal illusion was nothing, and then there was movement in nothing that created this, and then the gunas were this, but it starts out saying none of this is true. So the dissolution is just the same kind of thing. And I think Das Boot talks about the dissolution of the universe through the long way, so to speak, believing that the elements break down into each other, and then that goes, and then the gunas all fold back in, and then wind and fire and all this, or through discrimination. And through discrimination is very simple. If it's in form, it's not true. It has to be false. I know myself in a real sense as formless. So everything that's in form is false. I can still participate, but I don't take the touch of it. There's nothing that's allowing me to take the touch because it's in form. Do I have bills? Okay, yeah, I pay them, and if I, whatever, but force. Need to about that. No need to be concerned about that. I do my job to the best of my ability, but it's not the end of the world because it's in form, so therefore it's in the dream. It's completely false. The whole idea is that I know myself in a real sense, and I start to discriminate between what's true and what's false. And everything has appeared on spontaneous presence, and when I remain with my spontaneous presence, when I remain with my selfless self, then everything's false, except that sense of presence, which is kind of the aroma. I am the knower of that sense of presence. That sense of presence is a formlessness. I was not body, I am not body, I'm not going to remain body.
Would you say that discrimination comes naturally?
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. I mean, once you know yourself in a real sense, anything other than that is not you. You don't have to. I think even in the Vedas, they talk about, okay, neti, neti, neti. I am not the tree, I'm not the squirrel, I'm not the grass and all that. Or I know myself in a real sense. None of this can be myself. That's finished. Anything that comes into my right here, I look at it, I do the best I can, I move on because it's in the dream. It's my character, the role that I'm playing. Different scenes come in front of me, and I spontaneously respond to the scenes that are in front of me, but none of them are like pressuring me in. And like Maharaj says, you don't allow the touch of others, so to speak, anything to distract you from the reality. The reality is I know myself in a real sense. So something tries to distract from the reality. Oh, no. I'm not attracted to anything in the world because all these things, all these different desires in the past could dance in front of you, but you absolutely know they're not true. You remain with your selfless self. You're the actor in this little play. Nothing can affect you. Nothing. You remain with your selfless self. Every time something looks like it's turning up the heat, remain with your selfless self. That sense of presence builds. You're the knower of that sense of presence. Everything's okay. No mind activity because only mind talks about the form world. Well, I'm not interested in that. So mind has to be like, okay, what about this thing? I don't know what you're talking. It's the formlessness. And in the beginning, mantra, because that's inviting the attention of the invisible listener that can then automatically discriminate between the true and the false instantaneously, spontaneously. And whenever there's a doubt of true and false, mantra. Because I don't need to ask about a doubt to clear it. The doubts can be cleared through the mantra because I'm clearing the doubter. I don't have to clear my doubts. The mantra clears the doubter.
That mantra is like an anchor, you know. Like doing it this week, I just basically felt, it just pushed everything away.
Yes.
You know, just pushed everything away. It was like nothing was really consequential. I mean, you know, things were happening, but it just had no didn't have any relevancy in a sense. I mean, yeah, you know, you had to do things and do this and do that, but basically it didn't have any significance. It was just kind of like, it just pushed it all away, and just kind of like, the only thing that was really real was just being in that presence, you might say, or being in the mantra or whatever.
Yep. Just keep it in that, because that's the truth. The whole idea that there's an Andrew that has to do things will be seen as, oh, that's not true. Okay, that's good. Like, because the attention is invited. And the one that sees, I'm not a mouse, I never was a mouse, but I'm in this mouse form right now, so I just do this mouse stuff knowing I'm not a mouse. I'm Andrew, but I'm not Andrew. I'm not this body at all. So I can perform what needs to be done, but there's nothing there. And the body knowledge, which is this constant story and train of thought, it won't happen because there's no I am that's relating to I'm this body in this world. It's just I. And from what you've said, you're starting to see this. You, the selfless self, are starting to see through the eyes of Andrew that Andrew is not needed.
Feels real good.
Absolutely.
Finally,
Absolutely.
getting rid of this guy.
Absolutely. Because Sky doesn't have any worries. Sky doesn't have any concerns. Yeah, lightning can happen in the sky, clouds, sun, whatever happens, but sky is sky. Space is space. You know, all the activities can occur in the space, and the space doesn't change at all. So here's Andrew. There's space in Andrew and space outside of Andrew, and you can just move around. And anytime that there starts to become an idea that I need to read my lines again, no, I'm good. Mantra. Be fed your lines spontaneously rather than carrying around the script.
Yeah, I could see the root of the suffering is thinking that whatever is done by me. And it
Outcomes, expectations for a me.
right.
When the mantra erases the me, you're out of time, because there has to be a you in time. Also, there's no other, because there has to be a you for there to be other. So you're just aware presence moving about, using body form, but not attached to it. Not trying to plan and do all these kind of things for a life and make sure that this is happening and that's happening and, oh, it's not happening the way I thought it should happen and all this. No, you're just enjoying and remaining with your selfless self. You're in the bliss of the self all the time, because there is no time and there is no you. The only time you're not in the bliss of the self is when you're thinking that you're not. Then don't do that. That's where mantra comes in the beginning.
Yeah, it's kind of cool when you see that who you really are is who other people really are too. So, and if both people have that recognition, that could be really cool.
Well, there's not another. You will have the recognition and no longer see others, because there is no you.
Right. But
you're just relating in the moment, in the scenes that happen to be appearing,
right.
But there's not a you in it. Again, yes, you have a boss or you have friends or this or that, but you just know that aware presence is in these body forms as well, because it's all of everything.
Yeah.
And I think Nisargadatta said, that's the job of the presence. The presence becomes aware and knows, okay, I am not body, I was not body, I'm not going to remain body. All this world appears in my spontaneous presence. Then as it gets deeper, it knows that presence is the entire manifestation, and the individuality is no more.
Right. Yeah.
It's not anything that you need to do, like sit there and say, I mean, you can do it like we talked about the other night. If you pulled all the you're sitting in a group of all your friends, and it's kind of weird. You're not killing them, but you know what I mean. You're like, if you were to pull the presence out of them and say, okay, the spontaneous presence, all the presence is out. Now it's all dead bodies. Now we put the presence back. All the people are talking. So there's no individual in any of these bodies. It's the presence that's touching the body that in that moment, as it clicks with that body, believes I'm this person, and through the conditioning and all that kind of that's a selfless, that form. Because if the presence was to be removed from the body, it's a dead body. Just like this body, presence is removed, it's a dead body. So if I'm speaking to someone, I'm speaking to the presence, and I must be speaking from the presence, because if I remove the presence from this body's a dead body. So therefore I can't have any, like, this person's bad, or that person's I don't like, or why is this person doing this? You just do what you have to do in the moment, knowing everybody's the actor, even if they don't know they're acting.
Right.
You know, just like in a movie role, if you were the actor and you're on stage, none of the other actors, they're all pretending to be the characters, but each one is an actor. And even if the actor doesn't know they're an actor, that's okay, because you do. You know they're actors. They're actors in this drama. All of the characters that are appearing on your spontaneous presence are just characters, and the presence is the actor in each one.
Yeah, another way is like it's all gold. Some are rings, or some are cups, and some are
Exactly.
all gold.
Exactly. Same with the, the value of the gold dust as opposed to a gold cup. It's all gold. It's the same.
Yeah. Only we've been brainwashed to think that cups don't associate with rings.
Indeed. Indeed.
Oh boy.
Well, once you know yourself in a real sense, the world just goes, pow. That's it. Nothing more. And you know yourself in a real sense through mantra, through bhajans, and through inviting the attention of the invisible listener, listening to the master, because the master is saying over and over and over. And the master is your selfless self, removing all concepts from that form it's speaking. And that form is saying, but you're Brahman. Except your selfless self, there's no God, there's no Brahman, there's no Atman, there's no Paramatman, there's no master. Nothing is there. That's your own self, like we said. All the actors, all those people that are gathered around at Maharaj's feet, they're all the characters. Presence is moving all of them, providing the power for all of them. The one sitting in the chair, Sri Ramakant Maharaj, the Sadguru, presence that knows absolutely, is speaking to its own self in the play and saying, hey, guess what? You're doing a really good job as Andrew, but you're not Andrew. Hey, you know what? You're doing a really good job as Sandra, but you're not Sandra.
I don't have just a little bit enough left.
I think Trish is having an issue with her phone.
Yeah, I don't I just need to borrow a little bit of
Hang
that.
up, Trish. Oh boy.
Do you have John? Do you have any suggestions on what attitude to take towards preferences? Like, I know it seems that preferences or things that I like tend to drag me back into believing there's a me that has these preferences, and I believe that there's something about the things that I like that is actually, say, like better than something else. I guess the mantra sort of like undercuts that, and but it's still, that seems to be one of the main things that makes me forget to do the mantra and drags me back into away from selfless self or whatever.
Well, see, and again, and I know Maharaj had just talked about this at the ashram. That's all mind. Like the mind is saying, well, what if this or what if that? It's kind of a battle with the mind. What about preferences? I'll give you an example. When I flew to India, I don't like vegetables. I think I talked about this before. On the plane, I told myself, when we get on the plane, no matter what is in front of you, you're going to eat. You're going to at least try it. Like if whatever they're serving on the plane, you're going to at least try it. Now, there's a deliberate effort made in trying to get rid of preferences, good and bad. Okay, I'm trying, but there's an I am somebody else definite, trying to get rid of preferences, but at the same time, trying to minimize the preferences, because when I actually did go to the ashram, it was all vegetarian food. Mm. So there was a preference and an I am somebody else with the preference. Like Maharaj says about progressive steps, that's good for a time, and then it's just discarded. Because the truth is, in order to have a preference of any kind, there has to be a body, a belief that I am this body and all of this. Whatever comes in front of you, just do. You know, it's like, okay, it's here, okay. You know, like right now, if I were to go to a restaurant and they say, oh, would you like a salad? No, thank you anyway. But there's no I am somebody else that's needed to sit there and say, oh, now there would be if it was the same as on the plane and I said, well, I don't like salad, but to try and get away from preferences, I'm going to eat salad. Then while I'm eating the salad, I'm suffering eating this salad that I really don't like or want, but I'm believing that it's very spiritual and I'm getting rid of my preferences. But you see, that's all just the mind back and forth, battling with yourself inside your mind.
Yeah, I guess today I was noticing if I just take an attitude of it doesn't really make any difference, that sort of nullifies the preferences to a large degree. But
yeah, I mean, if you want to say too, you could breathe in. And, you know, just know when you know yourself in a real sense, that formless sense of presence, and that presence grows the feeling of it using body. And you dive into that.
You just focus on that.
And then what's happening is what's happening. You know, somebody says, would you like this or that? And if you just pause and, okay, like you said, you just pause and remain with my selfless self. And all these things are just going to go as they are. You can't not move. You know what I'm saying? The movement is going to occur. It's the story that comes with it of I'm choosing or all of this kind of stuff. And right away, then you're definitely having a belief in a body choosing. The space doesn't choose anything. And as Maharaj would say, prior to beingness and after leaving the body, there was no choice. All needs, all requirements came along with the body, and the body is dissolved through mantra and knowing yourself in a real sense. I'm not the body. I'm this formless sense of presence that's in this body, that has the power that's moving this body around, but I'm not this body. So anything that this body needs or wants is not my need or want. But yet it'll happen because in the story, this is coming through and that's coming through and all of this kind of stuff. I'm still using the instrument. And I would say, like, you know, I'm not going to get rid of a preference. I don't smoke. And if somebody said, oh, have a cigarette. And I'm like, well, I don't want to have the preference of not smoking, so I'm going to smoke. No, because, again, I am somebody else. And the mind is battling. The mind will use anything, your belief in these thoughts, directed. It's like Maharaj says, very, very tricky, pricking from backside. It needs that activity to stay alive. It needs your attention. It needs your power. And it needs you to believe that you're its slave. Once you know yourself in a real sense, then the ideas and beliefs about the form world cease. There's just no thought. There's no...
Some people find it extremely hard to believe that Nisargadatta could have been enlightened because he smoked.
No, but again, that's just happening. It's body. He knows he's not the body.
All right.
So did Siddharameshwara.
Yeah, you see him with pictures of cigars and stuff.
Oh,
I don't know if they're cigars or beaties or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
I get-
Nisargadatta Maharaj smoked beaties, and Siddharameshwara Maharaj smoked, because it looks like he has like a little cigar type thing,
Yeah.
or cigaro or whatever.
I guess, you know, like his preferences, it's just not being attached to you. If you have a preference, it's not being attached to it, which is like, it's like the mind is holding on to that or something like that, whatever. So-
Exactly. It's just, if it happens, it happens. If it's here, it's here. If it's not, it's not. But again, you are not body. You were not body. You're not going to remain the body. So the space in this room that you are, you know, if you had all you want to compare yourself to sky or space. If the body inside this space is doing something, how does it affect the space? It doesn't.
if you want to stop smoking, it doesn't mean you. I mean, the logic would be, well, kill yourself, then you won't smoke anymore.
No, but I mean,
You can't stop You can't stop your body from doing what it's doing, I guess.
actually, you will. I mean, in my experience with mantra, many things fall away. It's not like I say, "Oh, I want to start eating healthier," or, "Oh, I want to start doing this."
Right.
Many things fall away
That's what Nisargadatta says.
because I'm not involved in all that anymore. You know what I mean? It's like it just falls away. I'm not obsessed. It used to be a thought would come, and all my attention would be paid to the thought, and that thought would like repeat. I want chocolate. I want this, or I want that. But these things don't happen now because there's not any string of body knowledge that can attach and say, I am somebody that wants this something. It's not like that. And yet, if I'm sitting and I say, okay, I'll have some pudding. I'll walk over to the fridge and I'll have some pudding. There's nothing wrong with that. But these things, like you were talking, smoking, drinking, all this kind of stuff, these are habitual things that you've kind of trained yourself to do. And once, just like we talked about, the mantra gets rid of the doubter so that you don't have to clear all the doubts. The mantra gets rid of this desirer so that these desires, there's nowhere for these desires to land. There's not an I am somebody else desiring. It's space.
It does kind of make you wonder, though, what kept those guys smoking if it wasn't desire.
I don't know.
But then Nisargadatta also said in I Am That, I just read that at the foundation of the world there is a desire there that starts it all, I guess, or like is behind it all or something.
Well, again, the desire that once you know yourself, like that I am, we talked about this before, and Sri Ramakat Maharaj has talked about the ants. The formless you, the formless selfless self in the form of an ant understands I'm alive, I exist, and wants to protect that at all costs. So that's the desire to be. You'll give this up, though, because you'll see that it's not needed, that you can exist whether this to be is there or not. Because the I am somebody else, the mantra allows you to see, but I'm not this body, I was not body, I'm not going to remain body. So right away then, knowing yourself in the real sense as this formlessness, this presence that you're the knower of, it can't die, it can't be cut, it has no shape, no nothing. It's kind of poured into this form, like water, basically, except water, of course, can dry up, so that's a bad example. But pouring something in, there's nothing. You can't do anything with that. That presence can't be touched, can't be harmed. It's just like they talk about all the time, the space inside the pot and the space outside the pot. If the pot breaks, the space doesn't like pour outside of the pot. It just always is. It's always there. So you, as the formless, selfless self, knowing yourself in a real sense, everything else is discarded. And it's automatic. It's spontaneous. It's not myself.
So then also, to some degree, or maybe to a large degree, it doesn't make a lot of difference what the body does or what it doesn't do, but you don't go out and kill people and harm things, but because love is behind it all. But it's also doesn't mean that you feel a need that you have to do all kinds of stuff to perpetuate the body necessarily.
You don't have the sense of a body, because the reason you have a sense of a body and you're attached to the body is because of the mind flow that's believed in, that are my thoughts, I'm thinking. Without the body knowledge, there's no body. You know? Who are you without your ideas, beliefs, and concepts? The body knowledge, you're about yourself. You're nothing. You're no one. So you're using body, but none of this is attaching to you because there's no body knowledge. The mantra has erased this I am somebody else concept, and all these other concepts were on that. So without a body knowledge, without ideas, beliefs, and concepts, there's no body. You don't take the touch of body. You're not making decisions based on a body. You're not moving about based on body.
So
Body
basically,
is gone.
so the smoking is happening because of the body is smoking. If one leaves the body completely, if it totally, like if it just dissolves the body knowledge totally, then the body may do whatever it's doing, just kind of like it may carry on in one way or another. It's kind of like I think I've read, that there's a destiny to the body, at least. I mean, it's going to follow a particular course and then it's going to go, period.
Like you're going to pick your nose or itch your nose when the time is, when the body wants to. But the body will want, not you, but the body will do.
Yeah, the body has kind of like this. I know that Ranjit Maharaj says the body eats. You don't eat, the body eats.
Right.
Yeah.
The body's digestive system digests the food. The body's mouth ingests the food. And the body is a food body so that the consciousness or the presence can still use the body. And yet there's no body knowledge. Maharaj talks about that all the time. The body knowledge. There's no body knowledge, therefore there's no body. Still, the physical body is here, but there's no body knowledge, therefore there's no body. You're not taking the touch of a body. You're the aware presence moving about in body form, but you're not body. So there's no body knowledge. There's no body knowledge dictating how you're behaving or what you're doing because there's no body. Body has dissolved.
There is no body. There is no body or self that is ever going to get enlightened because
you're just dissolving all the ideas and beliefs and concepts that were causing you to believe. Other than that, you, like Maharaj says, you're in the circle of body knowledge and you're trying to live within the circle of body knowledge. Break out of the circle. Break out of the circle is there's no body knowledge. Once you know yourself in a real sense, body knowledge won't be for you. You can use the body, do your job, do your duties, family members, that's fine. But there's no body knowledge because there's not that running thought train of I am somebody else and these thoughts that are flowing in through nature are appearing to me. They're for me. No, it's not like that. There's no thought. There's no thought because there's no body knowledge. There's nothing. Nothing. Aware presence in body form, moving about.
Would you say these words like that you're speaking now are just spontaneously arising, or?
There's nobody here, so yeah. I mean, it's just literally like I'm sitting here looking at myself, and that's the only way I know that that there's something here. You know what I mean? It's like you're looking.
The words are arising spontaneously within a context or something.
I don't know. I really couldn't tell you. There's just, every time we do this little talk thing, I just sit down, turn it on, and whoop, that's it. Then all of a sudden somebody says, oh, it's 9 o'clock, and that's it. And then another scene. There's no like.
And the funny thing is that's what everyone is doing. But
yes, exactly. Except there's body knowledge and thoughts and memory and ideas that are separating you from this fact that exactly that's happening. We're sitting here, la 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 la. Boom, time to go. Okay, new scene. Tomorrow, sun rises, go out, new scene. But that's the reality.
It's entertainment.
Exactly.
What
We
do
are-
you do?
We're like differentiating and discriminating, but when you get aware of discrimination, you don't discriminate anymore.
Yeah, because it's another thing that's layered on your presence. You know, you're dissolving all these, and body knowledge only can appear to that. Instead of I am somebody else, this is all my thoughts, all my knowledge, all my, I'm this body. And you could sit there and say, okay, I'm not this body and I understand that, but I have to react in this way. No, but you're not body. It's going to react. You can do anything, but you do your job, do your duties, but there's not the train of, I wonder how this is, and you try to do your best. Because again, you're acting. And all of us are actors, just playing our role for the time that this body is here, and then the show's over. And yet, aware presence doesn't go anywhere. It just has nothing to be aware of. There's no body knowledge. Nothing going on. Moving about, but without any thought process, without any, how is this going to be? How is that going to be? What should I say? It's just not like that. It's like this is just a voice box and an instrument, and it's the same. Every single one. It's a voice box and an instrument, and then a belief of I am somebody trying to get this something, trying to process this, and then I am somebody else, and the thought process and all of that. Mantra. Know yourself in a real sense. All of us, I'm sure, have felt the selfless self, have felt that selfless self, that sense of presence. And that's it. Mantra allows you to sense that sense of presence. Why? Because it's dissolving all the illusory layers that are covering that sense of presence. It's like digging into your own self.
Do you ever lose the proximity of your body of where it's located?
Not like that, no. I mean, there's no attachment to it, but you're in the body. You know this, but there's no attachment to it. There's no attachment to it because there's no body knowledge. Yet you're using the instrument. Just like if you were to rent cars and go into this car and drive a little ways, and then get on another car and drive this way. You're in the vehicle. You know you're in the vehicle all the time, but you're not attached to it.
And you can
Even the memories too, John?
Pardon me?
Even the memories, would they be in, or you won't have any memory at all?
Memory, I mean, you can sit there and think about what happened and say, okay, this is a memory, yes. But again, memory, you're not attached to the memory. You can say somebody, okay, just like you hear Maharaj talk all the time, how it was with Nisargadatta Maharaj and his master. I'll speak about how it was going to go see Sri Ramakant Maharaj and doing the traveling and all that kind of stuff. But there's not an attachment to that. There's not a belief that this is happening and I want it to happen again, or the pain and pleasure principle of I absolutely don't want that to happen again. I need to prevent this. It's not like that, because spontaneously in the moment you're responding. But you're responding cleanly because there's no body knowledge that's running this script. And when body knowledge does start, mantra. Because once the attention is invited, and you know yourself in a real sense, you'll go with that sense of presence in every situation that's occurring. Okay, this is happening, but oh, wait a minute. I know myself in a real sense, that formlessness. That formlessly aware, not needing to worry about what's going on outside. As a matter of fact, the outside is being projected from the inside, so to speak. It's coming from that spontaneous presence. It's all appearing on spontaneous presence. Therefore, illusion. Therefore, no need to be worried or to think about anything that's happening. And yet again, still, doing everything right in the moment, 100%. And in the beginning, if irritation arises, you'll see that it goes quickly, quickly, quickly. You'll return to your undisturbed state much faster as you're continuing to use mantra, inviting the attention of the invisible listener. Maharaj talks about the 6 qualities or whatever. All of these start to appear because all of this field is being cleared.
I know Ranjit used to say a lot, frequently, that how can nothing harm you?
Exactly.
Also, Siddhar Rameshwar said, renounce the renouncer. I remember reading that, kind of like the, it's just happening I mean, you know, like at this particular level where, you know, where consciousness is, it's just simply happening.
Yeah, well, once the vehicle, the I am, has discovered the presence, then the presence takes it from there, so to speak. So renouncing the renouncer is an automatic thing because the one that was used to try and discover has been discarded. The presence, inviting the attention of the invisible listener, all of these things are appearing on the spontaneous presence and are dissolved. They're not true. And renouncing the renouncer is the invisible listener, just like we talked about before. The dreamer seeing through the body and the mind and the eyes of a mouse and instantaneously realizing, but I'm not this mouse. And yet I'm still moving this mouse form, but I'm not this mouse. And that invisible listener is the same kind of thing that's looking and seeing, I was not body, I am not body, I'm not going to remain the body. So all this body knowledge has nothing to do with me, so it can be discarded. Every time this thought train comes in, I need to do this, I need to progress, I really need to see myself, oh, I'm close to myself. Any of these things, they're discarded because it's the body knowledge, and I am not body, I was not body, I'm not going to remain the body. Who am I? I am this formless sense of presence that I can sense through this body form that's been labeled Brahman, Atman, Paramatman, God, and Master. Those are just, again, concepts when I'm believing myself in the conceptual world through the idea of being in a body. Prior to beingness and after leaving the body, these concepts don't mean anything at all.
Yet you take care of the body.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's there's the body knowledge is the main thing. All the flow of thoughts, the identification with the flow of thoughts, and all this kind of stuff, that's what causes the body knowledge. And the body knowledge is what makes you see the world, because you believe that you're in this world.
Right.
Rather than knowing that you're the formless presence using body, but not attached to the body, because there's not the body knowledge. You've broken out of the circle of body knowledge because you are not body, you were not body, you're not going to remain the body. So any of the flow of thoughts that has to do with body are discarded. And the more they're discarded, they cease. You know, I think Nisargadatta Maharaj says the mind has no customers. That's it. You know?
It goes out of business.
Yeah. We talked about that before, the factory of thoughts that's being stirred. You're not buying thoughts anymore. So they lay off the employees. They fire the management. The factory falls down and eventually gets decrepit and becomes a field, and they just knock the building down and plant flowers. Because that thought factory is no longer needed because there are no customers for thought. A thought comes in, oh, what about this thing? And if it's a practical thought, like, hey, you know, I need to pick my clothes out for tomorrow. Okay, I pick my clothes out for tomorrow. But it's not an I am somebody else that needs to be created to pick clothes out tomorrow, unless I say I'm trying to impress someone, or I need to look nicer at work, or any of this kind of stuff, or, oh, look, my clothes look older, I need to buy some clothes. Oh, but then I don't have the money right now to buy that's the I am somebody else in the thought process. Picking out clothes is just like picking up drink.
It sounds like the difference between the working mind and the thinking mind, which is Ramesh Balsekar came up with that there's this, the thinking mind is what gets you into trouble, but the working mind is just, how do I turn on my computer or those are the problems.
Yeah, because you like Ramakant Maharaj says, you use mind, you don't become used by mind. Yeah. Mind is an instrument. And since as long as you're in this body form, you have mind, ego, intellect at your disposal to use.
Yeah.
Also memory, like you have to remember where the dry cleaner is so you can go get your clothes,
There you go. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. You'd ask a number, some girl who broke up with you or some man who broke up with you 10 years ago, and that this situation that's happening right now, that thing could happen again. It's not like that. You're absolutely free because there's no body knowledge. There isn't right now. You just have to discard these ideas that there is. And mantra, remain with your selfless self, allowing things to come and go before you, doing your best in the moment and leaving everything. Every action is just pick up the water, drink. That's it. And that sounds very simple. Okay, I understand I can pick up the water and drink. But now apply this in your daily life with all things that are appearing, because you just have to know it's not true. It's not true. It's not true. Formlessness, formless sense of presence. I know myself in a real sense. This is appearing in body form. That means I need to use this body to do and perform this as if I'm an actor on a stage. But if I suddenly see in the next scene that my character isn't going to be in the next couple of scenes or is having trouble or whatever it may be, it doesn't matter. It's the character I'm playing. I'm using this body form, but I'm not attached to the role. And by not being attached, then body knowledge goes away, because all the thoughts that are flowing in nature that could be identified with as this is important to me, there's no me. There's the formless presence aware in this body form, moving this body. But I was not body, I am not body, I'm not going to remain the body. So body knowledge is just discarded automatically.
And when that happens, you really begin to make other people happy. I know that Siddha Rameshwara spoke about the importance of, and again, it's something that sort of maybe just happens, it evolves or naturally it comes to that, but making others happy, make everyone happy because they're your own self. And so the more you simply disintegrate or, you kind of just make everybody happy,
Well, because you're no longer acting selfishly.
Yeah.
There's no self-consciousness. There's just aware consciousness. That's it.
So you want to go to that restaurant, or yeah, we'll go to that restaurant. That's fine with me, or whatever.
There's no more staking, because the ego wants a fight. It wants a battle because it needs this kind of this battle, this idea, this activity, this motion. It wants to stick a flag in and say, "This I will," But it's not like that, because